Welcome back to our next discussion. We are moving on to one of my favorite units, poetry. Wait, I have to go like this, right? So for this discussion, I'm just going to make a little video kind of introducing you into our poetry unit. It's really short. It's only going to be a week long because we don't have a lot of time. You can see if you're looking at discussions, there's 3 discussions on poetry. There's also, if you back up for a second, you look at modules and you're looking at units, the chunkable units for each course. Remember, there are 4 of them. The second one is poetry. Unit 2, this is what's happening for Unit 2. It follows a similar protocol as short story, but it's half the amount of time. It's only 1 week. We have 3 discussions, journal logs, a journal log with your entries in it, and it's explained there, your quiz on poetry, and then essay number 2, which is your poetry interpretation and analysis. So right now we're just looking at discussion 7, jumping right into beautiful poetry. And so I'm just going to pull up another introduction from a Siegel book titled What Are Poems? Introduction. So it looks really similar to What Are Short Stories. I'm just going to rotate it so you can actually read it. Again, I just use this feature here, this rotation feature, to rotate it. Much easier to read. So here we are. Here's our poems from the Siegel Reader. So again, you're going to read through the first chunk here on the PDF. So I'm just going to actually skim it with you a little bit. And so it talks a lot about how poetry is very similar to music, how there's a cadence and a melody and a rhythm to it. It's why people love it, and it's why people find it challenging. You know, it's not that different from short story in the sense that there's kind of a narrative going on there. There's also often a beginning, a middle, and an end. I think it's easier to understand poetry if you can relate it to other things like stories or songs, and you can see the similarities. It makes it more accessible. So you're going to read about how to read poems. That's one thing that is really useful when you're going to enter into a literary analysis, is learning to read poems with that critical eye. Well, first of all, just learning to enjoy poetry for the sound and for the sake of poetry itself, but on an academic level, learning to read them with a kind of a critical, awakened mind state. And so we're being introduced in this section to new terms. You can see it here: lyric poem, sonnet, dramatic monologue, elegy, ode, ballad. We have speaker. And so again, a lot of these terms you're familiar with. You've already learned them or heard of them. And now you're just kind of pushing the knowledge that you already have to the next level of consciousness. You're going to be looking at audience and rhetorical situation, which you're going to look at in an English class pretty much with anything that you read, because those are the things we look at, the things that help us to understand the piece itself and where it's coming from. And so you're going to read this first section here. Let me just scroll so you can kind of see what it looks like. Whenever we talk about poems, we talk about metaphors and similes, and we talk about figures of speech. Again, those are like the foundation of what we consider to be poetic. And as we are researching and looking at these things with a critical eye, you'll start noticing them manifest themselves in your everyday life, and it's kind of a beautiful, wonderful, awesome thing. And you'll start thinking that way and talking that way as well. So again, we have symbol, just like we had in short story. We'll see that pop up, universal and conventional symbols. So just as a reminder, you can put some of this kind of stuff in your journal log if you'd like. You're also going to want to pay attention to these for the quiz, because the quiz is going to be asking you to go over the concepts. None of this needs to be memorized. You can have this PDF open while you're taking the quiz. You have definitely enough time to do that. So for the discussion, you're going to read over that, and then you are going to read the 3 poems that I have included below. We're lucky enough to find YouTube videos of the pieces that we are engaging in. So there's 3 here. There was Pablo Neruda, there is Federico Garcia Lorca, And then there's also Gloria Anzaldúa. 3 amazing poets that I really, really hope you enjoy. If they're new to you, awesome. You can kind of put them in your toolbox or in your pocket as 3 favorites or 3 poems or poets that you enjoy. If they are not new to you, you can enjoy them anew. And so the first here is Pablo Neruda's If You Forget Me. Now Neruda is an amazing, amazing poet. I should say he was an amazing poet. And you can hear his poem here. You can hear it in English here, and you can hear it in Spanish. Many of Neruda's poetry books are translated from Spanish into English, and you can see both versions. It's really beautiful to read it in the original language. There's something about that original language that captures the essence of what Neruda was trying to say, but the translations are also wonderful as well. So that's the first one. The second one is Federico Garcia Lorca, and there's a video of that with just the animation is phenomenal, and it has subtitles. It's just truly captivating. And then the last one is Gloria Anzaldúa here. And so there's 2 different ones. It comes from the Borderlands book. So it's To Live in the Borderlands, but she has many, 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 many pieces, academic and otherwise. So you have the 3 poets here. So after you're done pulling your quotes from the poems for your journal log and just enjoying the poetry, which I advise you listen to more than once or you read more than once for sure, then you're going to hop on the discussion board and you're going to post. First, you're going to choose one of the poems above by one of the 3 poets, and then you're going to give us your own analysis of it where you're going to write 2 separate paragraphs. So again, 2 paragraphs. The first is writing a paragraph where you analyze the poem's tone, speaker, symbols, images, repetition, word choice, etc. So you don't have to do all of that. That's just to kind of help give you a framework for what you're going to do. Connecting it to the concepts from the Introduction to Poetry packet. That's the first paragraph. And then the second paragraph, you're going to answer the questions. How does the poem that you pick relate to today's world? How does it reflect what's going on in the world today? And then how is it relevant to you? So really kind of taking this beautiful kind of ethereal piece, which is what poetry often is for people, and that's why sometimes people struggle with it because they think they have to find this right interpretation. But no, really just kind of looking at the poem for what you see and then pulling it into yourself and making meaning from it. That's where all your learning is going to take place once you internalize it and connect it. So that's what you're doing for this discussion. It's a lot. Again, we're only studying poetry for 1 week, and so this week is extra packed. But I do advise you to take your time, take a breath, slow down, and enjoy it. And don't forget to respond to another classmate's post. Enjoy discussion 7 for week 3, and have fun.